This. All right, here we are. We are live and ready to go. Welcome again, everyone, to another sunny Sunday of the One Great I Am Awakening. I am Chris Taylor, one of your hosts, and my partner in spirit and in mind, Sir T. Mr. Gregory Isaac Thomas, also known as Sir T, is not with us today, but the show will go on. We are ready to go, ready to have a wonderful broadcast today of the One Great I Am Awakening. All right. Today we're going to be talking about recognizing bridges of incidents. So I want to read something real quickly from one of Never Goddard's book, At Your Command. So everything is at our command. So just a short passage I'm going to read here just to set the foundation. And I do have a video of an individual that I want to play for us today. Um, his name is Tom, one of Never Goddard's students, and he's going to be talking to us about bridges of incidents. All right, he's going to show you or explain to you, how to recognize these, and these are things that has been happening, personally in my own life. So, um, up to yesterday. So I'll tell you guys that story, um, shortly. But up to yesterday. Uh, Several bridges of incidents took place and I recognized it. But oftentimes, you will not recognize the bridges of incidents. All right. You will not know that they are because they will not come in a way where you would see them as bridges. They more look like hindrance. Okay. They more look like trouble setting up like rain, something like that. I've had that circumstance happen to me some weeks ago as well. I think I foretold the story. I think I told the story last week. Um, and I will, reiterate it again just to tie everything in that we're going to be talking about today. All right. So let's start with this, and then we're going to go into the audio from Tom. All right. So it says here, can man decree a thing and have it come to pass? No. When we say man, again, for those of you who are not familiar with the One Great I Am Awakening, man simply means mankind. All right, not the male. It's talking about both male and female, both sexes. All right, that's who man is in the Bible. When they talk about let us make man, they didn't say let us make a man. They said let us make man, which is mankind. All right, male and female. So I say, can man decree a thing and have it come to pass? Most definitely, most decisively, he can. Man has always decreed that which he has appeared in his world, and is today decreeing that which is appeared in his world, and shall continue to do as long as man is conscious of being man. All right. Not one thing has ever appeared in man's world, but what man decreed that should. This you may deny, but try as you will, you cannot disprove it. For this decree is based upon a changeless principle. It says, "You do not command things to appear by words or loud affirmations. Such vain repetition is more often than not confirmation of the opposite." So it's saying that you do not command things by vain repetition, by your voice, or by continually repeating it or commanding it. It says that such vain repetition is more often than not, and confirms the opposite, saying that you do not have what you say you have. It said decreeing is ever done in consciousness, is done in your awareness, in your imagination. That is every man. That is every man is conscious of being that which he has decreed himself to be. The dumb man, without using words, is conscious of being dumb. Therefore, he is decreeing himself to be dumb. Okay? And so it says here, when the Bible is read in the light, you will find it to be the greatest scientific book ever written. Instead of looking upon the Bible as the history or historical record of an ancient civilization or the biography of the useful life of Jesus, see it as a great psychological drama taking place in the consciousness of man. All right? So that is saying that everything that you see coming into play or orchestrating or moving, um, you know, just things that are happening, transpiring, these are all from within your own consciousness. And these are all the bridges that are built within your consciousness that are going to walk you across different events, different circumstances, uh, every day, um, every week, every month, every year. These are all from within your consciousness. Nothing is happening that was not first within your consciousness. So we want everyone to recognize that you are basically experiencing the past. Okay, if that makes sense. This is why these are bridges. A bridge always existed before you crossed it. In other words, it had to have been built in the past, not in the present time as you are getting ready to cross over from one island to another, or from one section of the earth to another. Okay? It was built prior to you making the attempt. Therefore, everything that you are experiencing are incidents that were pre-made or done prior to you doing it in your mind, in your consciousness, in your awareness. But you are not aware of these things because they're so subtle. And you would say to yourself, oh, it would have happened anyways. You understand? So recognizing that this is how things are set up, it is then important to um, as life unfold, you are recognizing that you are experiencing something that you have caused unknowingly most of the time, and in some cases knowingly. And it is important to recognize, I guess, the difference between the two. Something that you unknowingly did and the ones that you knowingly did, you know. So we're going to talk about that as well. Recognizing incidents or bridges of incidents that you purposely um, invited or did, and not missing the opportunity um, based on how it is happening. And then secondly, recognizing the bridges of incidents that are occurring, but you don't remember, you're not conscious in any way how these things may have happened or could have happened because you have no memory of how you caused these things or because these were done unconsciously. They were done in the unconscious mind, not in the conscious mind. All right. So that said, let us proceed and play this audio. I will come back, I guess, in between to interject on some of the things that he's going to mention. So again, today's topic is titled Recognizing, and recognizing means to remember So you only remember something that's already a past. It's already in the past. Do you recognize this person's name? Do you recognize this person's face? It's something that you know already. But the problem is the conscious mind is not the one that consciously remembers or knows. It is the subconscious that these things are embedded within and they are stored there as memory. But who put them there? Only the conscious mind can put it there. But the conscious mind is not always in a conscious state. Most of the time, it's in a unconscious state, just doing things without intent or without knowing that it's doing anything, oftentimes by feeling. And that's why most of the time we don't recognize the things that we have done are caused in our subconscious because they're mostly emotional states of being. All right. And they're very subtle emotional states. And so you don't really recognize or remember the times that you may have caused these things. So recognizing is going back to the past and withdrawing from it memory, something that you have, done either intentionally or unintentionally, and just realizing that these are things that you caused, and now you're seeing the replay, so to speak. So we're living in the replay. Every day that unfolds is a replay of everyone's consciousness. Everyone's own consciousness is playing out in concert. It's an amazing phenomenon. All right, so let's keep that in mind. So again, today's topic is recognizing bridges of incidents, In-See-Dents. Stuff that is from within, and now you're seeing them in the present moment. But do you recognize? Do you realize? Do you remember? Do you know? Do you have any idea that these are coming from within you? These are projections of within you, from within you. Okay. So that said, let me go ahead and share today's audio, today's video that we're going to use. Here we are. Oh, let's restart this.
Be something wonderful.
So he calls his channel Be Something Wonderful. All right, so let's go ahead and play it. And he has a bunch of notes here. I like this. He does a lot of stuff with notes, so it makes it easier for him to explain his information, his content, and stuff like that. So let's take a listen, and we'll be back momentarily.
Tonight, on Be Something Wonderful, the bridge of incidents unpacked, manifesting the Neville Got It way. I am your host, Tom Karen, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. I heard from a subscriber that said, Tom, how do I know that I'm moving across the bridge of incidents? What are the signs? How do I know that that's happening? Well, guys, we're going to unpack this tonight and more. Here's the thing, guys. The bridge of incidents only becomes obvious after you have moved across it and manifested your desire in 3D, right? And this is a great quote from Steve Jobs to really shine a light on this point. This is what Steve Jobs said. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in the future. So you don't have to stress or worry or even think about the bridge of incidents. You will know it After you move across it and manifest your desire, it will become obvious to you. The bridge of incidence only becomes obvious after you have walked across or moved across it and manifested your wish fulfilled, right? So what's the best state of being? Looking at every event as a part of the bridge of incidence. Every event that happens in 3D is part of the bridge of incidence leading you to your desire. That's the most awesome state to be in, right? Here's what Neville said: the whole vast world reshuffles itself and forms a bridge of incidence, across which I move to the fulfillment of that state where I have been. Remember, you.
All right, so let's unpack that a little bit. What Tom is saying right there. He says, let's reiterate or recite what he says here at the very top. He says you cannot or can't connect the dots looking forward. All right. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in the future. This is almost like paradoxical. It's contradicting. It doesn't seem to make any sense because when you're connecting dots, you're connecting the dots, one by one by certain incidents or bridges of incidents. But what he's saying here is that when you have an imaginal state, you're doing this imaginal state, presently, but you're imagining something for the future. Okay, you're bringing it into your consciousness as a current, as we're taught, as a event that has already happened. So you are imagining imagining this state not as going to happen or hope it happens. You're living in the event. You're living in this in the state. You're living the experience imaginally, okay? Within your greater self. No. As you have done that, what you have done, you have connected the dots. You understand? You have already connected the dots in your awareness, in your imagination, when you're living from the wish fulfilled. You are living in the assumption that the wish is already fulfilled. And this is why the dots were connected at that time, not later on, at that very moment when you imagine the state of the wish fulfilled. You have already connected the dots from within your consciousness. What you're going to experience are the bridges of the incidents. You're going to, at that particular time, you are connecting the dots in a happening states, in a conscious state, but you are not going to be aware that you are connecting the dots that you have connected in your mind prior to having the experience, because the only thing you will recognize is the wish fulfilled. And Tom is going to go over an incident in his own personal life that happened and he had no recognition of it whatsoever, even though this is what the man teaches. And we all go through it, right? But you recognize when you reach the bridge, when you reach the wish fulfilled. But the bridges of incidents, in many cases, you are not going to realize. But what we want to go over today is how to recognize them. Okay, because it's very important. Even if you don't recognize the bridges of incidents, if you're not conscious of it, we want you to recognize when these are happening, so that you do not contradict what's happening and pretty much blow up the bridges or return or go back across the bridge rather than going forward, because what you're doing or seeing is contradicting your goal or your desire. So you may not recognize that this is part of the bridges of incidents. All right. So again, Steve Jobs said this: you cannot connect the dots looking forward because you have already done them in your mind. All right. And when you're having the experience, you are not going to know that you are connecting the dots. They're not going to make sense, okay? Because you've already done it in your mind and your consciousness, your higher self, primarily the superconscious, you are not going to recognize what is really happening as it has already happened in your own consciousness. So we want to get to the point where we recognize that these are bridges of incidents leading to your desire, regardless of the what is transpiring, regardless of how the if it's something that is so-called negative or contradicting or whatever. We want to recognize that everything you're seeing or experiencing, or you have to treat everything as bridges of incidents. Sometimes you may have to, what I'm saying, detour. You were going somewhere and the road was cut off and you have to detour. But when you detour, did you change your mind? No, all you did was change course. You did not change your mind from going to where you were going. You are still going to the assumed state. You're still going to the place that you have in mind, but you have to rearrange the process with the same state of mind, in your forefront. You're not changing your mind, you're changing how you get there. But these changes are not happening consciously. It's not your intention. It's just something you embarked upon and you're redirected another way. As you're driving somewhere, you didn't know they were having construction or there was an accident. You don't know. Now you're rerouted. You're sent to a different route, but you are still going to end up where you desired to end up. And a lot of times we do not recognize these things. We see an incident, um, we see endurance, we see impediments, and we just change our minds and say, nah, brother, this is not going to happen. It doesn't look like it. Based on what I'm experiencing, this is completely off, and it's not going to help. Give me a second, guys. For some reason, my computer was unplugged. I have to make sure this thing is plugged in. All right. Let's try this plug in. Um, all right. This working? All right. Let's give it some time. Let's see if that plug works right there. All right. So yeah, and then further on to that, Tom was mentioning that the bridges of incidents, um, what it says right here, that every moment, every moment that you experience, you should treat them as bridges of incidents. They should always be treated as bridges of incidents, regardless of the fact. Whenever God, it says here, the whole vast world shuffles itself to form a bridge of incidents across which I move to the fulfillment of that state where I have been. Notice he said, where I have been, not where I am going, but where you have already been in your imagination. The world is reshuffling, the world is conforming, the world is transforming. Everything in your in your desire. It's giving you everything that you intend to experience, but you will not recognize that that's what's happening. But the world is conspiring to give you what you desire. And another name for the world is, as we've been saying lately, the universe. Okay, Everything is conspiring to give you what you desire, but you don't recognize the harvest because it's not going in the way that you intended it to go because you are operating from the conscious mind. You're not operating from the subconscious or the superconscious. You are always operating from the conscious mind. The conscious mind is limited and only recognizes, when the things that it had purposely intended to happen happens. It does not recognize anything else that is going on because it was not in its plans. But these things are necessary that are happening because your greater or higher self, okay, knows the way of how are the best way to create your desire. You consciously do not know that. The only thing you're conscious of is what you desire to have or desire to experience. But the ways in which it's going to happen, you do not know. That's where you have to know. Say as what name them? Steve Jobs says, I have to trust, you know, I have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in the future. Okay. Meaning that the higher self will create these outcomes, these ways, the means of how these things are going to transpire for you. And you have to take your hands off. It's like these days we have cars that drives itself. Sometimes people who are new to it don't trust that the car is actually can drive itself. So you always have your hands on the steering wheel. But if you take your hand off, the car is going to drive itself regardless. You don't have to do it. It is autonomous, but you do not trust because you've been driving by yourself for so long that now when you're told it can be done for you, you are still holding on to the steering wheel. You're still hands on, and or you don't trust the direction of the GPS. If you were rerouted, you are still trying to go the way you know. And the GPS says, no, I got you. I know another way. I know a better way, a faster way, an easier way. And you're fighting it, trying to go against what the GPS is telling you that the way that you normally go, there's an accident, there's a detour, and listen, you're hell bent on going your way. And so what we're saying today is your way, meaning the conscious mind, is not necessarily the way things are going to unfold. It's going to be in a way that you do not recognize and is going to seem unrelated to your desire, to your destination. It will not make any sense. What we're saying today is we want to get to the point where we can recognize that this is uh, uh, how consciousness works. And it's almost like a trick. All right, as I say, I gotta test you. It's a test to see how to see how important this desire is really is to you, to see how much uh, much you desire this thing to happen, and are you going to give up on the first sign of some kind of hindrance, you know? And once you recognize that this is just what it really is, and nothing more than that, then you will proceed. You will not turn around or retreat or anything like that. You will continue the process, and by following this path, and it's going to be like a at some point it's going to be like a flow state. It's just going to start to flow. Everything is just going to be flowing in like water into um everything is just happening so easily, so effortlessly, you know. And that's the state you want to get to when we're crossing the bridges of incidents. All right. And so So that's the first part of this content. Just wanted to touch on that a little bit before we went any further. So let's continue with what Tom is trying to tell us here on the bridges of incidents.
Move to that state in your imagination. You imagined your wish fulfilled. Then you opened your eyes and now you're back in 3D reality. Now you will be moved by that greater you, by that higher power to your desire. That's what it's talking about. In fact, I had a similar incident happen to me just yesterday. And I think one of you wrote on the channel today, Tom, it would be great to hear some of your experiences. And guys, the reason I don't share them is because it's about you. It's about empowering you. But if there is an experience that fits into the lesson, like this one that happened yesterday, I definitely will share it. So over the last week or so, I've been sort of thinking about, wow, I haven't really snowboarded since before pre-COVID, since before the pandemic. And I thought, wow, it's been a while, or really since I started the channel, I haven't really done anything except do videos, right? And talk about this stuff. And I thought it would really be nice to snowboard this season before the season's over. And I'm thinking, really, February's perfect, right? Well, it's still cold, well, it's still snowy. And then I didn't really think anything of it. I went and I checked it. I just happened to check my snowboard gear to make sure I had my board and the boots and everything was set. But it wasn't a strong intention. And I wasn't thinking, well, oh, it must happen or it has to happen. I didn't think anything of it. And then yesterday, sure thing, my good friend James texts me and then calls me and says, hey, I'm thinking of putting together a snowboard trip to Mammoth in February, right? The first week of February. And again, guys, this is all the components coming together. This is Mammoth. This is a 6 to 7 hour drive from Southern California. And he got a place already that a friend had that was available. And then our old friends were all going to kind of get together. So it's going to be the old crew. All the components of what I was kind of wondering about. Really, it was a light intention. It wasn't nothing strong. It'd be great to get together with old friends and go snowboarding. Happened, right? Just within a few days. That's what I mean. That's the bridge of incidents. It only became obvious to me because even as I was talking to him yesterday, it still wasn't obvious to me. I said, I was just thinking about that. But I wasn't thinking about it as an intention or anything like that. I go, James, funny you called. I was just thinking about that over the last few days. That's how it works. And then after I hung up the phone, after I absorbed it, I thought, wow, that's the bridge of incidents. That's kind of cool. Right? That's how it always happens, guys. So let's unpack this a little bit more. What is the bridge of incidents? A bridge of incidents is a series of events that unfolds automatically once you assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Or in other words, once you set your intention, right, that moves you to the fulfillment of your wish in 3D reality. I didn't even imagine it, right? It was a light imagining. It was an intention. It was a daylight imagining, right? So it doesn't always require dropping off to sleep and imagining. You can merely set your intention or claim it, right? Or assume it, or just feel like, or wouldn't it be nice, right? It really was that for me. It was like, wouldn't it be nice? It was a wouldn't it be nice manifestation. Those are powerful, guys, right? So what do you want to do? There's nothing to do. Just get out of the way of your higher self. Stop trying to figure out the path. Stop asking about and dwelling on how long will it take, right? Be timeless. Right? Be timeless. That's the time is a limitation of 3D, wondering how long it will take, right? Stop trying to help infinite intelligence. The limited is trying to help the unlimited. You're limited with your 3D mind, right? You can't possibly help infinite intelligence. Sorry, guys, you're no help. You can only hinder it, right? And then there's only now. So how long you have been trying to manifest it. I notice a lot of frustration. Like, I've been trying to manifest this for months. Is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. There's only now, right? If you keep carrying that baggage with you, then it will never happen, right? It doesn't matter how long it takes because you're in a now, you're in a new moment, right? This is powerful. And so there's nothing more to do. This is big. It's an experience, not a process. Hear this. It's not a process, right? We get caught up in processes, and I'm not saying processes are bad, they're good, but make the process part of the experience, right? Feel the desire, right? Thoughts of how, when, where are limitations of the 3D you, right? Forget that. Forget the how. Forget the when. Forget the where. It's all going to happen. The bridge of incidents will happen, right? You will cross that bridge of incidents. Connect with source, your higher self, where doubt, fear, worry, lack, or limitation of any kind simply don't exist. When you connect directly to that infinite intelligence, directly to your higher self, then doubt and fear can't get in. They don't exist there. Hear this, right? Stop looking for signs. You are the sign. You are the evidence of your wish already fulfilled. Hear this. You are the sign. You are the wish, right? It's within you. Stop trying to figure out or ask whether you are doing it right and just experience it, right? There is no doing it wrong or doing it right, right? Mine was just a wonder it would be nice. So there's just experience. Have the experience. You are a creator. You create. That's what you do. Either consciously or unconsciously, you're always creating. That's who you are.
Wow, that's very powerful stuff right there. As you're saying that you are the process or you are the sign. Don't worry about process. The process is actually the experience, something that you are doing, but it is the experience that is leading up to the wish fulfilled. In other words, this is what you have to experience, whatever the process is, that will seem out of alignment. It's a trick, of the mind. Your mind playing tricks on you. It is actually the process you're going through is actually part of the experience. It's part of the journey. It's not something that is veering you off course. You veer off course when you start to question, when you start to doubt, when you start to have fear, when you start to lose faith, as they would say. This is when you veer off course, which is very interesting. It's not when you're having these experiences or the process seems daunting or it's taking too long or it's unsure, you know. You are always going towards your goal, but we have these hangups of doubts, fear, loss of faith. Um, we are very troubled, you know, by what's going on, loss of patience, sadness, anger. We start to think with the limited mind, which is the conscious mind, trying to figure out how is this thing going to happen and why it not happen yet? Not realizing that we're the ones who have been intervening or trying to limit, as you mentioned earlier, the unlimited, your higher self, your higher state of awareness, which no lack or limitation of any kind exists. No doubt, no fear, none of these things exist within your higher self, because your higher self does not operate in or with limitations. Okay, the only part of consciousness that operates with limitations is the conscious mind, and it is like that for a reason. It cannot be anything other than what it is. It is necessary, or a necessary component of consciousness. Without the conscious mind, there is no desiring. Okay, there is no detailing. There is no um contemplating or imagining, thinking about something better, different, or just having a particular experience. The conscious mind is necessary for that. The problem is we use the conscious mind and then we continue using it for for everything, not realizing that there are stages or steps within consciousness in which the conscious mind does its part, the subconscious mind does its part, and then the superconscious mind does its part. We don't realize that these are the stages in which consciousness operates. Okay? It's like trying to start your car without having the key. We're just trying to get to starting the car. Well, there's a process. You need the keys first, which is the conscious part. Then once you start the car, the car is equipped to drive itself. You don't have to do anything manually. You don't have to use your feet to run and push the car, or use a hand to push the car. Everything is motorized. Your job is to just steer the car. It will take care of everything else. Don't try to find out, how the car works and this and that, the third. It's already equipped to work. Your idea and concern is just to stay focused on the destination. All right. And the destination already exists. The destination here is where you have been in mind already. But as you're driving, you're just going through the process of getting there. And the process is the experience. You are having the experience with the journey, the way in which you're going to get there, whether it be a detour or going over certain bridges or going around this corner here and this and the third. It is still the bridges of incidents that you have to take, but it's still part of the experience. Okay. As he's saying here, there's nothing more to do. It's an experience, not a process. It's really an experience you're having. And experiences means what was inside is coming on the outside. It already exists. You have already created it. The manifestation. The manifestation is not what's happening. The manifestation has already happened. When you see um things happening, you're just seeing the evidence of the manifestation. Okay. The manifestation just simply means something that you have created in your consciousness already. And when it's unfolding, you're just having the experience. You're just experiencing what already exists, what you have already created, even if it's contradictory or controversial, at least to the conscious mind. The conscious mind is limited and cannot see what the subconscious or the superconscious can see. It cannot see that. It's limited. It's like your eyes can only see it as far. So what have we done? We've created binoculars. We've created telescopes, or even more uh, different or higher versions of telescopes. Some can only see so far. So you are always um, going towards the goal, but you may not be able to see how you're going to get there. And this is where we get into our own way. All right. It says connect with the source, your higher self. Okay. This is the superconscious mind, which is your higher self. Where doubt, fear, worry, lack of and limitations do not exist. All right. There's a part in the scripture says that you know, in my father's house are many mansions. Okay. In my father's house are many mansions, and if it were not so, I would have told you. It says, I will go and prepare a place for you, and I will return unto you, so that where I am, not where I was, not where I will go, but where I am right now in my imagination, there you will be also. It is telling you that the conscious mind, which rules the body, which gives the body recognition of experiences and such. It is telling you that the conscious mind has a helper, which is the subconscious. This subconscious goes to the superconscious in the Father's house. This is the superconscious it's talking about here. Also known as your imagination. All right. The subconscious has gone to the superconscious wherein everything exists. All of the desires of the conscious mind lives within the superconscious. But only the subconscious can go there and arrange it. Okay? Arrange the way in which it's going to happen, the best way in which it can happen. But the subconscious has to go to the storehouse, the father, where the whole, where everything is. And all the ways and means and know-how exist within the higher self, within the superconscious. But the subconscious is the one that is creating the ways and means of how it is going to happen. Is the middleman, okay, between the conscious and the subconscious mind. I mean, the conscious and the superconscious mind. All right. So it is going there to prepare a place for you and will return unto you, the conscious mind, the one desiring the experience, so that where the subconscious is, which is within the Father, arranging or occupying the state that you had consciously desired. It's occupying the state within the Father, within the superconscious, so that where it is, there the conscious mind will be also. Okay? Wherever your desire, whatever you desire in your mind, it already exists. And that's where you're living, you know, consciously at the moment. But you have to remain there. We go there sometimes and then we come back out. We don't remain there because we're not recognizing the bridges of incidents. And so we change our mind, wherein we then change the bridges of incidents. We then is like you starting over from scratch. You know, you are detouring um your own self in a way, going around in circles, not realizing that you are actually on the right path. You just don't consciously recognize it, but there's a greater part within you that recognize the path. And you have to trust that it is going the right direction. It's going the right way. It's not going to mislead you, but you will mislead yourself thinking that you are off course. When you are on course, it's just that you cannot perceive it, being that the conscious mind is limited in its perception. Okay? You can only see so far with these conscious eyes, but there's a greater eye within you, your imagination, who is the Father, who is the all that there is, that sees everything, that there's nothing that it does not and cannot see and exist presently at all times. And all you have to do is trust that you already have attained it in consciousness, but then the final outcome is the 3D or the third dimensional state of the wish. Okay? The third dimensional state is the physical state, the physical experience um, unfolding so that the conscious mind and the thing desired can become one. Okay? In the name Yod He Vav He, the last He is the conscious state. That's the physical three-dimensional state. That's the last state in which the consciousness unfolds and becomes apparent or becomes an experience or becomes three-dimensional. Okay? Becomes one with the person desiring. You know, it becomes fulfilled. Okay? And this is why the last He, the first He is the inner awareness of this desire, the 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 mental state of you desiring this thing. Okay, that is the first hey. Okay, and then the second part of that is the vow, which attaches the thing desired to your consciousness. Okay, now you're one with the thing you desire. That is the process. You are first conscious of something, then you're conscious of being it. That is when you're conscious of being this thing, this is the spiritual aspect of it now. You have now become the spirit of this thing. Okay? So first you're in the psychological state, thinking of it, desiring it. It's in your mind. Now you have to become it. That is the spiritual aspect of it. You have now garnered the feeling. And that's why the vow is the aspect of feeling, having the emotional state, having that spiritual state of the thing that you consciously desired at first. Once it is all tied in and become one, a unit, the only thing left for it to do now is to manifest into the outer world. And that is the fourth stage. So the first stage is the one desiring. The first state is the one that desires. Okay. The second state is the thing desired. The third state is becoming one with the thing desired. That's the vow attaching the thing desired to the one desiring. And then the last state is a third dimensional outcome, the physical experience, um, the thing that you've always wanted or desired or needed, whichever way you want to look at it, has now become apparent in your world. Okay. And these are the steps that consciousness are the processes of consciousness that leads up to your wish fulfilled. Okay. Tom right here says you should stop looking for signs. We did a program like this last year. Stop looking for signs. You are the sign and the evidence of your wish already fulfilled. Okay. You are the sign and evidence of your wish already fulfilled. Stop trying to figure out or ask whether you're doing it right. Okay. There's no doing it right or doing it wrong. Experience it. Be unlimited. Why is he saying to be unlimited? He's saying to be your higher self. Stop being the limited mind, the conscious mind. It is it is not the thing that or the mind that figures out anything. It's only capable of desiring because it's the mind of knowledge. It knows what it wants, but it does not have the wisdom to get what it wants. It works with a higher dimension of itself, which is the conscious, the subconscious, and the superconscious, who are bringing the thing desired into being. Okay, and that's really how the consciousness that's really how consciousness itself works in these different sections of itself. We just have to recognize that we are this consciousness itself, the whole thing, and stop recognizing or thinking that we are the body or thinking that we are the conscious mind. We are not. We are the whole thing. All right. We are all that there is, but we are operating from a lower point of view for the purpose of having or experiencing all that there is. Okay. The only way we can experience all that there is to limit ourselves, limit consciousness to a particular point, and then work our way up this ladder, experiencing all that there is one by one at a time, and evolving into this greater part of who we truly are. As we gain these knowledge or these experiences, we are becoming we are returning to the higher consciousness, okay? But we are always operating from a limited perspective. We just have to understand that though we are the whole in this world, we can only operate from a limited perspective. But remember to rely on the higher self, all right, that knows all that there is to know about the things that we've already desired, and just keep our hands off going forward. All right, so let's go ahead and finish out this the rest of this tip of Tom, and then we're going to come back and tie everything in.
Right? And so manifestations happen in the world of non-physical, the unseen, beyond time, space, and limitations of your 3D self. Hear this. Because sometimes we think the manifestations happen in 3D. No, you just perceive them in 3D. They're revealed in 3D. Do you hear this, right? They already have happened in the unseen, just like this trip to Mammoth to snowboard was already in the works. It was already a done deal. I just perceived it, right?
You hear that, guy? As I aforementioned a little while ago, that manifestations are not when you see them. They're just the evidence of the manifestation. So manifestations are things that happens within your awareness. It's something that has already happened in the unseen, but they're now being projected into the 3D world so you can have the experience. Okay? It's the unseen, all right? And it's beyond time and space and limitations of your 3D. So your unseen self is beyond space and time, okay? But all that you're desiring and thinking or perceiving already exists within this higher self, okay? So you are constructing something within the higher self at all times. And when you're done with the construction, that is the manifestation. But there's going to come a time when the manifestation projects itself into your reality, okay? And so you are then having the experience, but the experience had already existed, but you have to go through bridges of incidents to get there. And when you're having the manifestation, these are the bridges of incidents that are adding up towards this thing that already exists within your consciousness.
I just had that, I was open to it, right? All the channels were open. You perceive them in the 3D world. Trying to make your manifestations happen via processes and affirmations will only create a state of being of not manifesting them on any plane. This is big. Trying to make things happen, trying to make things manifest via processes and affirmations will only create a state of not manifesting them on any plane. There's nothing wrong with manifestation, with processes and affirmations. But if you're doing it to try to make something happen, to try to force it through effort, that's why a lot of you have written me and said, I'm just exhausted. Of course you're exhausted because you're doing processes like that's going to make it happen. But the best thing you can do, the most powerful thing you can do is connect with Source, connect with that higher power, connect with the infinite. And then there is no effort. You will be led to it, right? Stop clinging to methods and simply be with your wish already fulfilled. Hear this, right? Even after we imagine it, we still cling to methods and affirmations and still trying to force it. Stop clinging to all that stuff and simply be with the wish. It could even be softly like I did. Just simply be with it. Make it feel, just feel how good it feels, right? To even say what if, right? Feel that, right? Every intention, every desire, every wish has an unseen equivalent ready to be realized in 3D. Hear this. When you wish it, when you imagine it, when you desire it, when you say what if, it already has an equivalent in the unseen ready to be revealed in 3D. And to the extent that you don't get in the way of it, it will manifest. That is the bridge of incidents unpacked. That's what the bridge of incidents really means. I am your host, Tom Karen, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of Higher.
So you see what it says there, guys? It says that every intention, every desire, every wish has an unseen equivalent ready to be revealed in the third dimension. Okay? Everything that you desire, there's always an unseen equivalent. Okay? Ready to be revealed in the 3D. So you don't need to try to make the manifestation happen, as you're saying there. Okay? You will only create a state of not manifesting them on any plane. All right? And right there it says in red, this is very big. In other words, you're using the conscious mind with effort, with will, to intentionally create your desire, you know, not realizing that there is a higher awareness of the thing that you have desired. The thing that you've desired has a higher awareness of that thing, of how to get it. That's why it says here, every intention, every desire, every wish, that is your intentional desires. They all have a higher wavelength, a higher frequency that is unseen, but it's equivalent to the thing that you desire. And it is always ready to be revealed in the 3D, but you have to allow it to happen. So let me stop this right here and tell you about what happened, just to bring this point home, what happened, what was it, yesterday? So what it was last week, I had lately, I think I've been talking with my cable company, not cable, internet, at the barbershop. I reached my 2-year contract is finished this month. So I've been calling these guys now for maybe the last 2 months, maybe 3 months in advance to rearrange a new contract, so to speak, with the price I was paying. Now, they told me when I called them that they don't have the price that I'm paying currently anymore, that ship has sailed. And so they have to upgrade my my package will have to be upgraded because they don't have that lower grade anymore. And and I also have to they have to increase my price. Not much. It wasn't by much. I was paying 50 a month, but they were going to increase it to 60. So I told them, no, I don't want that. I want the same package I got. No. And I want it for $50. Kind of remind me of when Never was talking about going to Barbados. And um Abdullah said, you are in Barbados. Okay. You are not going, you're in there. You're in Barbados, you're there. And you went. Everything he's talking about past tense. And you went there first class. And so when Never would argue with him, he would just slam the door so that Never would not contradict the seed that he had planted in Neville's head, even though Neville did not believe it, but the seed was nonetheless planted. And so he just cut it off so that he doesn't contradict his desire to go to Barbados. So anyhow, as I'm relating to these people that, nope, I hear what you say, that this doesn't exist anymore. The price doesn't exist and this and that and the third, but that's the one I want. All right. And if that's not what you guys are going to offer me, I do not want it. All right. So I would talk to them for a while, and then I wouldn't, we would end the conversation where I wouldn't talk to them for weeks. Call them back, it's the same thing. So last week I called them because I told them, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to, because the internet that I have here is on the T-Mobile. I have no contract, um, paying $50 a month, and it's no contract. So I say, you know what? I don't want any more contracts because that would put me in a better state of control. So I called the internet company who I was using and tell them I want my internet disconnected as of tomorrow, as a matter of fact. So I want it disconnected as of tomorrow. And they tried to get me to change my mind and this and that and the third. I said, nope, you guys weren't listening to what I was saying, what I want. So um let's go ahead and disconnect it. And it's interesting. I think I called him maybe last week. Today was Sunday. I called them maybe Thursday. No, it couldn't be Thursday. Thursday was maybe Wednesday. I think it might have been Wednesday I called them or Friday. I have to look back on my phone. But I know I called them. I think it was Wednesday, and I disconnected the internet, you know, and they called me back Friday to to see if I had changed my mind, and I said no. My mind is not changed. It's still the same. I want my phone disconnected. My internet disconnected. Plus, and I said I do not want a contract. So you guys don't offer non-contract anyway, so I have to disconnect it. No contract. That's not what I want. Um, and I want the price I want. And I said, okay, sorry we couldn't help you and whatever. So yesterday was Saturday. As I'm there working, remember no, I had not called anybody. This internet is supposed to be disconnected tomorrow. And I had intended to call T-Mobile to get the same service, for the shop. And somehow I never got around to it. I did not call anybody, but it was my intention to call. And when I left the house yesterday, I said, I'm going to call today to arrange the setup and everything. Anyhow, I didn't do it. And as I'm there working, two guys walked into the shop, but they're not from T-Mobile. They're from AT&T. But they're offering the same package as I'm using right now with this internet, except it was cheaper and so-called better. But it's no contract, just as I had intended to have. No contract, $50 a month, and you know, just having the same or better internet quality. They claim it's twice as fast or whatever, but either way, this internet works just fine for me. Here, I haven't had any issues with it. It's been 2 years, I believe, now that I've had it, I think. But you know, AT&T came up with their version of it, and everybody's having their different versions of it now. I think even my phone company that I use has their version of it now as well. But anyhow, um, as they walked in the shop and they were talking, I never like asked them too many questions or anything like that. I know when they left, they were probably like saying, that was the easiest sale we've had all day or ever because I was working and they asked me if I have internet right now. I say yes, I have internet right now, but what are you guys offering? I never told them that I disconnected my internet for the shop. I said, what are you guys offering? It told me what they were offering. They said, well, we can have it set up by Monday, which is interesting. because it's going to be disconnected on Monday. And I said we can have it here by Monday, expedited, and you can have it by Monday to use and whatever. And Monday happens to be my 11-year anniversary for the barbershop. Last year was 10 years, which we celebrated. And tomorrow, which is I started 11 years ago on a Monday, January 5th, 2015. And here we go. So it's really, you would say, ironic or coincidental that all this is happening on the anniversary of the barbershop, you know? And 11 happened to be one of my favorite numbers as well. So I have a lot of history with that number. But nonetheless, as I was talking to these guys, everything is just flowing. I was in a flow state, as they would say. I wasn't um asking too many questions, just the right questions, such as, is this a contract? No, no contract. They said, well, it's gonna be $50 a month um for the first 3 years. These are the prices. For the first 3 years, it's gonna be $50, but it's no contract. So the price is fixed for 50 for 3 years, 36 months, but I'm not under a contract as I desired. And um they went in to explain that the internet is faster. What's going on here? Yeah, they went to explain that the internet is faster and it is better and this and that the third. And they were just asking me all these questions, like, what is the name of the shop? Who's the owner? What's your name? All this different type of stuff. They had a few people call me, but I'm doing all this stuff as I'm working. I was cutting a little 1-year-old child, and at the time, and he was behaving himself. It was his first haircut, so everything was just flowing. The child wasn't acting up. His first haircut, he was just sitting there sucking on his binky and watching the phone or whatever, and it was just and I'm recognizing this stuff. I'm seeing it. So I'm just like, smiling to myself because I'm seeing everything that's happening. I'm seeing the fact that I didn't call these people, but yet they showed up. And um the price that I wanted was actually what they were offering. And before everything was closed out, they said, and actually if you do auto pay, it would be $45. So it won't be 50. So it even went down a little bit. More than I had expected, but $50 was fine for me because that's what I'm paying right now. And how we got to this $50 thing was what was 2 years ago. Um, I was with Comcast. So Comcast was charging me an arm and a leg. They kept going up on my internet for years. But one day I looked at my bill and I realized it was all of a sudden it's at $140. I called them and they said they can't do anything about it. So um, as we are discussing that, I did not call anybody. And days later, two guys walked into the shop from T-Mobile as I was talking to these guys about reducing my bill. And two guys walked in the shop from T-Mobile. And that's how come I ended up with T-Mobile as my service here. Now, I had taken out two modems and I called back Comcast and they said, okay, because I told them I'm calling to disconnect my bill, my account, because I didn't have any contract with them anymore. I said I'm calling to disconnect my bill, my internet, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, they say, well, we can offer you the same for $50. You know, only thing is it's going to be on a 2-year contract, and but we can offer you the 50, the same 50 that I had talked to them about months before. This was two plus years ago that they claimed they did not have. But all of a sudden, because I switched, they now can offer me the $50 package, which they say they no longer had. And so I remained with them and gave back one of the modem, and I just kept this one here for the house. But I really had gotten two, one for the shop, one for here. But since I was with Comcast already for so long, I wasn't going to go anywhere. I said, all right, I'll just keep the Comcast here for $50 a month. But no, like I said, it expired this month, January. And so I called them again, to get the bill fixed back to 50. And they weren't obliging, but as I said, I called him last week and disconnected it. And here comes two guys again, another two guys from a different company walked in, and I just recognized everything that was happening. You know, I did not ask him a bunch of questions, all these different type of stuff, just main questions so I can, get to the point of the type of internet they have and what were the contract, if any, and all these different type of stuff. So I got exactly what I desired without even calling anybody. And I say that to say this, that the manifestation, like Tom explained, was already within my consciousness. It had already happened. It was just, I was just having the experience of the manifestation. That's what it was. I was having the experience of the manifestation, you know, and I recognized it. I realized I was in a flow state. I realized I was experiencing the bridges of incidents. And as I told you guys last week, that two of my barbers, two of my most decorated barbers, just up and quit just last week. Not this past Monday, but the Monday before, 2 Mondays ago, just like that, out of the blue. And as I was saying last week, we talked about, you know, that these are also, incidents that may not seem to be related to things that I have desired or was desiring. Like I mentioned, I was writing some stuff down with my left hand and whatnot. And the incident that transpired there, though it is adverse in a way, because it's loss of income in that state. It's sudden, no warning, just out the blue. But I recognize that these are the states that I myself must have caused, must have imagined, must have felt or contemplated, on. And I know because there was a particular incident that happened which kind of led to these two individuals leaving. But in essence, it was nothing for them to, it was no reason for nothing that would give them the reason to leave. It wasn't anything adverse or controversial, but this is consciousness playing out its part. What I was saying to myself, why would this happen now? And this is what I need. I had hired a couple of other guys, and why is this happening now? The circumstance or the situation that was happening at the time. And I'm saying to myself, if this continues to happen, I'm going to end up this is gonna I'm going to end up losing somebody. And it it worked out. It turned out that I did, because this was in the back of my mind, as I would say, it was in my subconscious. I'd already planted the seed in my subconscious that this is not going to end good. If this Why did this happen? It's not going to end good. And what happened was the person that I thought would leave was not the person that did leave. It was the person that I didn't think would, which is rather interesting. But you see, um, there's a greater outcome that is to happen, very soon. I cannot see it, but I can sense it. I see what's happening. I can see the threat. I can see the bridges of incidents. Though the bridges of incidents may not be what I would consciously desire or want to experience, they're happening nonetheless. It is something that is almost always controversial. I've had this experience like this before back in 2008, and it was absolutely controversial and contradictory to what I had hoped for or wished to experience or have, and everything was just going against what I was desiring. But based on what transpired after that, everything worked out for the better. Everything worked out for the good. Everything worked out where I could not see how it was going to be something beneficial. And it actually turned out to be something very beneficial. It put me on the path wherein I was making better money, more have better freedom, all these different type of stuff. So even though I had lost my job back in 2008, um, I was put in a better position that I could not see at the time. It was very daunting, very controversial. Didn't make any sense. But in the end, as I proceeded, it everything revealed itself. All of the controversy that I thought was controversial turned out to be what I needed. It worked out just fine. You understand? So fast forward now to what just recently transpired. Um, it's let me say history repeats itself. It's the same thing again, but this time I have a higher awareness. I can recognize, though it be controversial, though it be adverse, it's not detrimental. You know, it's not a denial, it's just a delay. You know, it's not coming to disrupt, it's just coming to reconstruct, redesign, elevate. It's not going lower, it's going higher. It's a different floor, but because the floor is new, it might seem like it's lesser than, you know. And so upon further consideration of the recent activities, the recent circumstances or events that happened, I have come to the realization that it was for the better for all of whom were involved. You understand? But I came to that realization rather quickly. Even though, as I said, consciously, it's not something that I had desired or would ever desire to have happen. I love these individuals. We get along absolutely well, just fine. Um, Very remarkable. We just people are and relationship, but sometimes these are the ones or the people that only come for a time and teach you a few things. You learn a few things or a lot of things, and then they move on. Sometimes people just come in your life for a time and then they're gone. But it was not to hurt you, it was just to help you grow, help you elevate. And so just looking back at everything that transpired, I can see where it's going to be better for all parties involved. For them, for even for them. Matter of fact, they came to see me yesterday, and stuff like that. I have no ill will, no hate, no anger, only disappointment in how the timing, consciously being ruled by the conscious mind right here on this 3D plane, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to be concerned. You're going to wonder, what's happening. As they say, you're going to have that human aspect of the experience. All these things are going to come into question, and it's fine because you're having the experience, you're seeing it for what it is at the moment. But during that time, it's like I was alternating. I'm seeing these things, I'm disappointed, but at the same time, I recognize, though I don't necessarily understand where it is leading or going. I cannot see or don't have a clue, but I know that with persistent faith, as we had done a topic on that last year as well, with persistent faith, we I will see, the outcome eventually. I will see the benefit of the thing, of whatever had transpired. It is not contradicting my aim, my assumed states. Is not doing that. It's just part of the process, part of the experience in which the state that I'm residing in, or the things that I have desired. It's showing me what has to transpire, what has to happen. And based on what I was imagining, contemplating, thinking, um, and the state I was living in, you know, I can now see why these things transpired, even though they're, to people who know and see what has happened, are disappointed that, because everybody love these individuals, so everybody's disappointed that these things happen. But in myself, I know, and as they were all telling me, one door closed, another one open. Everybody's like very positive about the situation. They're disappointed it happened, but at the same time, in the same breath, they're saying all is well. Um, it's not as bad as it looks, or as bad as you think, and it's just part of life, as they would say, part of the process. So these are bridges of incidents that I have crossed lately, and had to cross in order to get to a desired state, in order to get to an assumed state, in order to get to my goal, dreams, and aspirations. And oftentimes it's not going to happen in the way you desired it to happen, or expected it to happen, or feel good about it when it's happening. You're not going to be in that understanding state. But one thing is you're supposed to recognize is that if and when these things are happening, that you are not on the wrong path. You are not losing, you are gaining. What I'm saying, um, I did a topic like this last week on Mind Chat, addition by subtraction, you know. So it sounds like it's contradictory. It sounds like it's paradoxical. It doesn't make any sense. How can you add if you take away? But that's how life really is, in essence. When you add value, you had to take away something to add the value. Okay? In other words, if you're sculpting up a piece of rock or wood, you have to chip away a bunch of the wood in order to now add this beautiful image into your life or into the world. But you had to dis disconnect a bunch of parts of it from itself, in order to show its value. So you have to extract or subtract volume to expose value, you know. Um, and so that's the way I see it. In order for you to level up, there are things that you have to not do, or don't do, or stop doing. And then when you identify these things that you have to lose, or stop doing, or do less of, or whatever the case may be, it is then you start to add to your experience add to your life, because you have now identified with a narrow focus, as they would say, tunnel vision. You don't have any things peripherally in your peripheral vision. You're just looking straight ahead now because you have negated all these other things that were impeding your focus, your straight and narrow focus. And so these are the things that transpired at all times in people's lives when they're about to embark upon something great, embark upon something big. You will not see how it makes sense, but you are always walking on those bridges of incidents. You are always in that area code. It is always what has to happen, but you will just not be in the mindset that this is what is transpiring. So what we want you guys to understand today is to, you know, even when these things are happening, be of good report or be good report, be of good faith, be um committed nonetheless, stay in the state assumed. Do not leave the state. Do not leave what you have already planted in your imagination. What is transpiring, you can see these as exams, tests, obstacles that you have to get better than. But the obstacles are there to make you better. Not no obstacles, weightlifting, running, jumping over things are designed to make you weak. They're designed to expose your weakness, not to make you weak. That's a difference. And once you expose your weakness, you can work on what's weak, you know, and then you become stronger. And that's all that these bridges of incidents are revealing. They're revealing, you know, at times what needs to what needs correction, what needs to be discarded, what needs to be upgraded, updated. It's all a revelation, as in scripture with what name there, the 12 disciple, um Judas. Judas is the one that reveals, you know, what is going to save you. But the revelation may not be to your liking. It may not be what you expected. But nonetheless, it's a revelation because his job is to betray, which means to reveal, to expose, to uncover what already exists, but the eyes cannot see it. And so you have to have a spiritual awakening or an inner understanding, esoterically, mystically, of what um, is leading up to the thing that's going to save you. So even in the example of of Judas and Jesus, a very extreme example of something that's going to save you. That was an extreme example. But this is how life really works. This is how life really is. Because imagine the guys came, first of all, Judas signed a contract to betray Jesus, you know, and lead him to the enemy, so to speak. He goes and tells them the guy that I kiss is Jesus or the Savior, right? They ask him, who's the Savior? Jesus, this is. He says, I am he. Then Judas walks up to Jesus and kiss him. Now remember now, he had already told them, the one that I kiss, he's the Savior. But Judas went up to Jesus. But before he kissed Jesus, he say, Jesus said to him, say, now that you have found me, do not let me go, me being the savior or the thing that's going to save you. He's telling you that I am the idea, I am your desire, I am what you yearn for, long for. Do not let me go, despite all of the impediments or discouragements and doubts and fear that may creep into your mind, which naturally they will, because you're still operating from the conscious mind at all times. But do not entertain these states. Remain faithful in the state that you are living in, that you've been living in, the state that's going to save you, that's going to extract you from whatever circumstances that you're in. Stay in that state, regardless of all of what's happening around you, you know? And so when he said that, he said, but know that you have found me, do not let me go, but let all others go. Let go the doubt, the fear, the despair, the unfaithfulness, let go the worry, the frustration, let go um anything that's going to um stop your narrow focus, you know. Don't have anything to your left or your right. Just stay focused on the goal in mind. Okay. And he said, I know that but whatever you're going to do, go and do it quickly. So one thing he's telling him, don't let me go. Then he tell him, go and do it quickly. So you see right there, it would make no sense to think that he was speaking in a, wait a second, no, literal state. Okay? He's not speaking in a literal state or anything historical. He's all of this is in consciousness. When you have a desire, your desire is your savior. Um, but you don't really know how the desire is going to save you. You don't know. Okay. So you bring the guards with you to arrest your desire. Why do you need to arrest the desire? So that the desire is confined in that state, and that you will be the one that it is confined for. You're the one that is telling you. Judas, in this sense, is the one that is doing everything. Okay. In consciousness. Okay. But you have an operation within the consciousness. You have the guards, and you have Judas, you have Jesus, and the next guy that was there was Peter. Peter means, well, Simon. Simon means to hear. So you're going to hear doubts. Simon severed one of the guards' ears, you know, and that's implying that you have to sever any negativity, anything that is going to attract, I mean, I'm going to impair your judgment, of your wish fulfill, anything that's going to change your mind, anything that's going to send you on a different course. You have to sever that. So you see the correlation right there. Simon means hearing. Okay. And so the everything is transparent there to explain to you how consciousness is working. Okay. Be careful of what you hear, but you also have to know what is going to save you. And when you recognize his savior, which is his desire, the desire is already a present state. It's just that you have to go through the processes, or the process in where you can experience it third dimensionally. But it is all already a present state within your awareness. Everything you're reading in the Bible are states of consciousness. These are not physical or experiential. These are not things that happened, you know, in the past. They're happening. They're presently occurrences within your consciousness, you know. But there's going to come a time when the present awareness of these things in your mind, your consciousness, will unfold. Those unfoldment is now known as the bridges of incidents. You're going to rehearse first in your mind the state or thing desired. Okay. The rehearsal happens here. And then the actual event or play is really a replay. It's really a replay of what you rehearsed in your mind. But the replay is three dimensional. The rehearsal is in the fourth dimension. Okay. Fourth and fifth dimension, that's where the rehearsal happens in the higher states of awareness. But the third dimension is where it is evident, where it becomes tangible, an experience, something that you know, because the conscious mind is the mind of knowledge. It knows when it's having the experience. It can tell by sight, by hearing, by smelling, by tasting, and by touch. It knows, when it's having the experience. So, but it's always going to be something almost controversial or um going against your wish fulfilled. It's going to seem as the story I just told about Jesus and Judas. It looks like it's a terrible thing happening, but this is how it is supposed to happen. Okay, this is how it happens at all times within consciousness. We just don't recognize it. Okay, Judas was told to identify Jesus, and he did that. He identified his savior. Then there he must first become one with the desire. So what did he do? He said, the one that I kiss. When you kiss someone, you're becoming one with that person. You are making a bond. You're emotional now about that person. When you kiss somebody, that's what started to happen. You get aroused, you start having this emotional state that overcomes you, one with the person. So it's the same thing with the thing that's going to save you. You have to kiss it, meaning that you have to become one with the state desired. Okay? This is your Judas state where you're now identifying your savior. Two things Judas has to do: identify the savior, which he did. Actually, three things. He identifies the savior, then he kissed the savior, meaning that you hold on to, attach yourself to this thing. But the one last thing that you have to do, which Judas had to do, he said, and whatever you have to do now, go do it quickly. Why quickly? Which was to commit suicide. Suicide is in this case is psychologically, not physically. He had to detach. That's another word for suicide. He had to detach from the old consciousness of our previous state of being, previous state of how is this going to happen, when, where, if, state of lack. You have to die to that state. Stop questioning, asking, begging, pleading for this thing or how it's going to happen. You have to sever that state of being because everything you're doing is a state of being, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. They are all states. All right. So, and thankfully, they're all states because states are just are not who you are. You understand? The states are not who you are. They're just who you are being. It's just a moment that you're having. Okay? That way you can move from one state to the other because if you were the state, you would not be able to change. This is why you can drive from Florida to Georgia to Carolina, all these different places because you're not fixed to the states. The states are fixed, but they're not you. They're just um, states that you're driving through, that you're going through, not to. You understand? You're just passing through them. And you go to one, you have an experience for a time, and you move to the other, and you have an experience for a time. Or you can decide to stay in the state, whether it be good or bad. It's your decision. I decided to stay in Florida. I've been here 30 something years now. That's the state I'm in, but I'm not confined to it unless I decide to stay confined to it. You understand? The state cannot confine you. Only you can confine yourself to the state, good, bad, or indifferent. So Judas has to identify, attach, and then commit suicide psychologically. All right. Die to the old and only live for the new. So in the story, it looks like it's, you know, radical and, wicked and all this different type of stuff. But it's just to show you that in life, as consciousness unfold itself, things are not going to be necessarily as you would experience it or expect it to. But the thing that you have desired is happening, it's unfolding anyways. You just have to recognize that everything you're going through, as Tom mentioned, are you have to treat everything as bridges of incidents. You have to treat everything as that, even though it is contradictory to your desire or your destination. As I mentioned, you might be turned off to a different course. You might be detoured, but it doesn't mean you're not still going forward to your desired state or place. You're just detouring. You might have to take a longer route now because this was the shortcut, so to speak, but them cut it off. But now you have to go this way. But you're still going there. You understand? It is still certain. So don't use your conscious mind to decide. You use it to design. You do not use it to decide how things are going to happen because it does not know how it's going to happen. You understand? It has no clue. That's not the part of consciousness that takes care of that. The part of consciousness that takes care of that are the other two aspects of your consciousness, your subconscious and the superconscious. But the subconscious is your helper or your emanation. This is your Eve in the Garden of Eden. Okay? When man was made, let us make man, both male and female. Then man was given Eve. All right. And Eve is also in the name Yod Hey Vav Hey. It is the last three letter in the name Yod Hey Vav Hey, the Hey Vav Hey. That those three letters spell the name Eve. Most people don't even know that. So it cannot be there by accident. And Eve means, which is spelled Hey Vav Hey or HVH. Um, and it's not even pronounced Eve, but it's because of the English version of it. Okay, why it is pronounced Eve. Because H is the fifth letter in the Hebrew alphabet, and E is the fifth alphabet in the English alphabet, the fifth letter. So all they did was just, you know, whether it was intentionally to fool or not, but it's just part of how they constructed the English language. And in relation to Hebrew, H became E in our language, in our fifth letter, is E, similar to the Hebrew alphabet. That's why I spell EVE. You understand? Eve. But it's really HVE, and it is in the name of Yod He Vav He for a reason. It is telling you that that aspect of consciousness is the womb of consciousness. The HVE, the HVH, or the He Vav He all correspond in one thing. It's the mother and the child, the He and the Vav, and then the last He is the child uh, being born. Is the expression of that child. You understand? But and when you add up the He Vav He, it adds to seven. Which is telling you that what the scriptures say. Seven is a day of rest. Seven is uh divine number, which indicates rest from, restrain from, refrain from doing something. It is now turned over to this aspect of consciousness. So you no longer have to configure or do anything consciously. Seven is for the day of the Lord. The Lord in this case is the hey vo hey um of that constructed name. That part of the name is responsible for aligning, for bringing things into being, you know, and you no longer have to design or desire how this thing is going to be. You have the desire, you live in the desire, you live in the wish fulfilled, and you rest from trying to figure out how it's going to happen. You're in the rest state, okay? You have constructed it already, okay? You have manifested it already in your mind. The manifestation happens within. The expression of the manifestation happens without. The 3D, the experience of the manifestation happens without. But once you construct it from within, you rest. And when a woman is pregnant, you can't get her pregnant again. She's already pregnant. So the man rests from trying to impregnate the woman. She's constructing, creating, giving form to the thing that the man has already deposited within her, which is either a male or a female, a boy or a girl. But the woman is the one who is constructing it, giving it form, giving it life. You understand? So it's teamwork. But the man does his part. Him not know how to form a baby or carry a baby. He has no clue. But one thing is certain, he knows there's a baby. We understand this in the natural world, but we don't understand it in the psychological world. And the irony is the psychological world and the natural world are one and the same. They are equal parts of each other. It's just that one is visible and one is invisible. And it's easier to understand the visible because we can see it. Our five senses identifies it. We're having the experience. It's easy to understand that. But when we cannot see it by sight, we don't understand it. We don't realize it. That it is the same thing we experience in nature, in the natural world, that we are experiencing in the internal world. If we could just stay hands off and do everything accordingly, everything will fall into place. Like last week we said, you know, when things appears to be or seem to be falling apart, it's actually falling into place. You know, when things seems to become topsy-turvy or upside down or radical or controversial, it just seems that way, but it's really falling into place. It's really alignment, but the alignment does not seem like it's aligning because there is a tug of war, there's a indifference, there's a struggle to accept it because it doesn't seem, you cannot see it, you cannot hear it, you cannot smell it, you cannot taste it, you cannot touch it. You cannot identify with it because you are out of alignment in its understanding, in the unfoldment. So what we're bringing today, guys, is just understanding of consciousness in its relationship with nature, with the natural world. It's the same thing. Everything that happens in nature is what happens in consciousness. Everything. But consciousness is first. It is what causes everything to happen in the natural world. The natural world is just an example or a metaphor of consciousness itself. It is showing you how consciousness works metaphorically in a physical state. You understand? But it is not to be construed with that nature is the end all be all or is the cause. Nature is the natural world is just the express state of the supernatural world, which is consciousness. You understand? It is what is the cause of all things, cause of life, cause of everything that you're experiencing. You are the cause. You are consciousness. You are awareness. But simultaneously, you are having a natural experience of consciousness. Okay? And that is the confusion. Just understand it. You're living in two worlds at the same time. Okay? But you are in the causal world first. Okay? You are in the imagination. You are the cause of all things, whether you desired it or not. You are the cause of everything. And you're just living in the expression of this cause. And in knowing that you are the cause, you can uncause, undo um, a bunch of things that you have caused. Just like how you plant a seed in the ground, you can dig it up if you change your mind. If it starts to grow, roots and everything, you can pluck it up if you change your mind. You just have to recognize what you're plucking up. Is it the seed that you had planted? Because you probably cannot identify it. It's too young to identify. It doesn't seem like it's the tree that you desire to plant, you know. But if you are aware that it is what do I call it now, weed and not an actual tree that you desire to have, you can plug it up. So these are other aspects of consciousness that you have to identify as well. That something that you thought was or is the thing desired or whatever the case may be is actually not. It's a what do I call it now? It is a distraction, such stuff like what's going on right now in the world, everything that's going on with the economy. All these things are just weeds that we think, are the things that are real or necessary or mean anything to you. You have to be able to turn your back on those things and stay focused on the thing that you have in mind, the thing that you desired. Okay, you have to plug up these things, get them out of your consciousness. Be not concerned or be not conformed to this world, but be he transformed by the renewal of your own mind. All right, don't conform yourself to the outer world by all these negative nonsense that's going on. You hear them, but you don't inundate yourself with them. You are aware of them, but you don't become them. Becoming something meaning don't be attached to it by feeling, just by awareness of the existence of it, and that's it. And you just continue your journey with the wish fulfilled, with the thing desired, until the manifestation of it becomes apparent. But don't concern yourself with all that's going on. These are all distractions. These are all things to pull you away from the thing that you desire, okay, to manifest. All right. So we're at the close of today's class. Today's topic, again, was titled Recognizing Bridges of In-See-Dents, spelled Inseedents. I spelled it like that so you guys recognize it's something that you have to see. Okay? These are things that you have to see happening. You may not know that they are bridges of incidents, but you have to see them that way. All right? You have to become aware that all things are that you're experiencing are parts of the bridges of incidents. And they could be something that are so-called negative or controversial or indifferent, but nonetheless, it's part of it. Sometimes you have to lose something to really cross over to something else, or to cross over to the right thing, or to something better. So everything are bridges of incidents. I lost my job some years ago, 2008. And 2000, prior to that, 2001, I think, yeah, twice. And both instances, it worked out for the better because of what I was desiring at the time. But it was so controversial, so radical. It would not be something I would ever consciously decide to do. Okay, unless it was something that was necessary for whatever reason. But it was never something that I could have ever imagined doing consciously. But nonetheless, that's how it worked out. And it was always for the better, you know. So just recognize that all these things are part of the bridges of incidents, though they be distasteful or unwanted or whatever the case may be. They're all leading to your desires. That's that's key to recognize what's really happening. All right. So that's it, guys. Thank you for your time. And we just wanted to start off the new year right with this particular topic. We're going to go across a bunch of bridges of incidents. We had desires from last year that we had imagined, contemplate, meditated on, um, and they may not have happened yet. But remember what I said earlier, that manifestations are not physical, they're psychological. They happened already from within. You just have to attach or garner the spirit of the manifestation. Attach it to yourself, to your consciousness, your awareness of being. And in due time, they will expose who they are, what they are. They will expose the revelation. The experience will become evident, tangible, you know. But in the meantime, remain faithful to their desires. Do not change your mind. Um, do not doubt or question. Just live in the moment as if you're having the experience already. And in due time, it will manifest as so. All right. So start off the new year great. Started off right. Today's day 4. And we'll be back here next week. Interestingly, one of my favorite number, the 11th, is going to be 111, triple one, next week, Sunday, January 11th. We'll be right back here on the One Great I Am Awakening. Love you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day and the rest of your week. Peace and love.